Dr. Oz is in the Epstein files. My diagnosis, not great. This is just another day. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. And if you're feeling guilty because you're a bit unprepared or you haven't reached out to that special someone with a plan yet, give yourself a break because at least you're not this man. 1111111111111111111. Yes, it turns out that Miad isn't only a phony physician earning off misleading promises about diet pills and olive oil. He's also the love doctor. And by that I mean he enjoys hanging around with pedophiles. Recently, it was revealed in the freshly leaked batch of Epstein data that Dr. Oz and his wife extended Epstein an invite to their celebration. I presume they utilized that famous website, Shameless Post. But hey, maybe in the Oz home, Valentine's Day is no big thing, like how Martin Luther King Day isn't a huge deal in the Trump household, just an irrelevant holiday that doesn't need to be observed at all. That's correct. Valentine's Day is the ideal occasion to reach out to that sexual predator you've lost contact with. Dr. Oz welcomed Jeffrey Epstein to his party 8 years after Epstein registered as a sex offender. So for everybody who was furious off that they didn't make the cut for Dr. Oz's party, now you can be more outraged because he selected a rapist over you. Now, Dr. Oz's invitation to Epstein does not suggest that he's involved in any unlawful conduct. It merely makes him another privileged white person more than ready to ignore Epstein's awful acts. Does it make him a scumbag? Yes. Does this make him an even larger one? I'd say so. 33333333333333333333333. Look at this motherfucker's face. His face of amazement and surprise is not from the gut-wrenching anguish that this lady had to suffer, but from his ability to earn millions profiteering off their misery. Dr. Oz invited rape victims into his program and pretended he gave a damn. His crimes were already known, yet this person was inviting Epstein to his parties only to suddenly turn around and bring up the fainting couch while speaking to his pals' victims on TV. You know, I'd ask how he sleeps at night, but I don't feel like being pushed a medication that doesn't work. Now, just in case you're keeping count, this increases the number of Trump officials involved in the Epstein files to too many and the number of individuals who've been dismissed to zero. Yesterday, the president even addressed the recent discovery that his Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, had traveled to the island. 44444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444 coffee machine, right? How was your weekend? How are the wife and kids? How was your seashore lunch with our common acquaintance, Hansi Hitler? Yes, America is the finest nation in the world for those who want to schmooze with sex offenders and not lose their job. And for context, it ain't like that in the rest of the globe. As a consequence of having their names appear in the Epstein files, a former Norwegian prime minister is being accused. In Dubai, the CEO of one of their main port operators was dismissed, while a Canadian physics professor stepped back from his work over his communication with Epstein. I imagine they were working tirelessly on the principle of raping everything. But lest you believe no heads are tumbling here in America, 55555555555555555555555. Kind of good to know that while being a horrible monster of a human being, he's also an unfunny old guy. The fact is, Dr. Oz is going to face the same fate as everyone else in this administration who had a contact with Jeffrey Epstein, which is to say there will be zero repercussions. And that's because the whole ethos of Donald Trump's White House is defending affluent elites. Since Trump descended down that golden escalator, his whole narrative has been that he has your back, that while he may have been extremely successful in business, he too was once just like the rest of blue-collar America, a simple, hard-working boy with perfectly normal-sized ankles who, through sheer grit and $413 million from his father, was able to realize his dream. And because Trump had your back, because he was one of you, this courageous guy was more than prepared to lay aside all of his financial dreams and do the thing that he thought this nation needed most. Exactly. Drain the swamp. No longer will Washington elites and their affluent pals be permitted to travel on their private planes and cram their pockets full of cash while millions of Americans fight with finding a job, paying for health care, or just supplying food for their families. No. Those days of America's top elite flourishing while the middle and lower classes suffered were going to be past. We're going to win so much you may even grow bored of winning. But it turns out Americans are fatigued for an altogether other reason. 77777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777777. For millions of people who need it most, he jammed a measure through Congress that gave tax benefits to billionaires. And all of that financial bias toward our nation's rich elite would be bad enough. But now he's expanded his complete the poor philosophy to victims of sexual assault. He could have released the data on day one. He could have commanded Pam Bontsi and Todd Blanche to shower hellfire down on any of Epstein's co-conspirators, or at the absolute least, he might prove that he has the backs of Epstein's victims by dismissing everybody who happily mingled with that disgusting monster. But he didn't, because he has the backs of his CMS administrator, his Commerce Secretary, his Fed Chair appointee, his appointee as Secretary of the Navy, and his Deputy Secretary of Defense, his favorite campaign donor, and even his low-level campaign staffer who tweeted out that racist video. Donald Trump does not care about helping anyone except himself and his affluent pals. Each and every one of them are members of an exclusive club where wealth, privilege, and power is important, and well-being of others doesn't even cross their thoughts. They are morally bankrupt bottom feeders who don't have a single excuse for their very shameful behavior. Happy Valentine's Day. Nice try. Before you leave, if you love this material and you want to see more and support independent journalism, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the fact is that we are now in a political situation where this administration can lean on any of the social media sites to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it obvious that they are eager to cater to this government. To that end, signing up for my newsletter provides a way for me to approach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll post the link right here on the screen as well, so please join up. It's free, but there's also an option to make a paid subscription if you'd want to help me and my team. I sincerely appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.